Say What They Can't Radio.
Good afternoon, guys. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Chat Room with Lady M and
Choclet'Ri.
Today we have a special guest, Dr. Tiffany Rikard, who specializes in counseling for family, marriage, and she went actually to my uncle's wife alma mater. A&T.
Yes, Aggie Bright.
and their two twin daughters graduated this year, last year from there too. So yeah.
Yes.
So tell us, one question I did want to ask, because I see that you specialize in systematical, multicultural counseling.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for some people that may not know or understand what that's about?
Okay. So systemic multicultural counseling. So first, my background is I'm a marriage and family therapist. That's my license. And so I specialized in grad school in looking at basically systems of oppression.
Okay.
Right. And how can we interact on a systemic base, not just with like individuals, but individuals within their systems, kind of recognizing their social positions. Right, race, class, gender, things like that, and how they're affected by that in their family system, communities, and at large.
What made you decide to go that route with the family and marriage and going to the counselor? What made you decide?
Well, it's so funny because I was always interested in relational things, right? Like what makes people tick, but not just them individually, like what are the kind of the back scenes of relationships, right? I always had that interest. And this is a true story, funny. So I was always into astrology and things like that, okay? And I was looking, I had waited too long and all of the programs for counseling had closed, the application, things like that had closed. And I called the psychic. Right? I did. I called the psychic and I was like, everything's closing. I don't know where to apply, yada, yada. And he said, look to your north. Right? This is so random. He says, look to your north. And there's a program there. There's a white man and he's going to get you right on in there.
Wow.
Yeah. Really? Yeah, really. And so at the time I was working as a nurse. I was a nurse for 17 years. And I worked third shift. Cool. Yeah, I worked third shift. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I came home that morning and I did what he said. And I saw a program at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And they were still accepting. And that was to the north because, yeah.
Wow.
It was to the north. He was spot on because I was in Greensboro. I had just graduated from A&T. Mm-hmm. And I reached out to them and he said, just submit your transcripts. Mm-hmm. And I did. And by the time I woke up from my third shift nap, he was like, get all of your things here. We're going to get you in for an interview.
Oh my, yeah. That is amazing. Wow.
Yeah, for sure. And so it just so happened to be, it wasn't a regular counseling program, but it was a marriage and family therapy program, which is exactly what I wanted. But I didn't even know that you could just take that route directly.
Okay.
So it just happened to be like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's funny because when you said psychic, I'm like, I hope it wasn't a Miss Cleo or anything like that.
At the time,
she was a scammer, so that's like,
right. You always run that risk, but just like I heard Tina Turner say one time, when one of her interviews, she's had a psychic like that, like she had personal advisors.
A lot of celebrities and a lot of people actually do have those advisors and stuff like the healers and stuff like that. They actually do go to them, and they say that some of them are like really accurate. Yeah. I used to always just think they just read your language, your body language, and read into you. So I didn't know how true it was or how intuitive it was.
Or they did some type of research on you or something.
That's like what I would think, because sometimes people could read people.
Yeah.
So that's how I was taking. So I was like, when I used to see it, I'm like, oh no, That's what I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, it was pretty accurate.
So
Pretty
tell
accurate.
us more about the family and marriage counseling. Like, what was some advice and some things that you would have seen, dealing with couples and with relationship issues, and like, maybe give an example and how, you advise them to be able to overcome certain situations.
Well, I think that that's interesting because the one thing that family therapists do is they look at the problem not so much in the individual, but in the communication pattern.
Okay.
Right. And so there's not this so much of an emphasis on how did something get started. It's that a little bit, but it's more so what keeps it going. What keeps this negative interaction between a couple, between a family going, and how can we, intercept that to create more of a positive outcome. But here's the thing. I think most people think like when you come to counseling, that it's just going to save your relationship. And that's not always the case, right?
Really?
Yeah. No, it's not always the case.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Yeah, no, because some couples went through counseling and it either hit or miss. Sometimes it give a realization for them to separate instead of stay together.
But why
Exactly.
is that? Why
Exactly.
in your professional
Yeah.
opinion, why
Well,
is that?
a lot of times people don't come to counseling until it's already over. I mean, like, you understand? You wait,
They let it fester and
right?
Okay.
And it's so, at that point, it's so toxic. At that point, they are just like, then they show up and then try to. But I say this to my clients. I have them what we call externalize the relationship. I say, if your relationship was a child, what would it look like?
oh,
Right?
That's a good analogy.
That's
Right?
good.
Is it, living? Is it just sick? Is it on life support?
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Do you
That
want
is-
me to help you to nurse this child back to health, or do you want help to pull the plug?
Oh,
You see?
that's yes. Oh wow.
Yeah.
What is like one of the major issues that you saw in couples? Is it just communication, cheating? Like what?
Okay. So the cheating thing, right?
Yeah.
Most people think, right, like that's the huge, like,
Yeah.
nail in a casket, right?
Mhm.
And they tend to look at the person who did the cheating as the absolute worst.
Right.
Yes.
Right? But okay, so here's just another view of it is again, talking about communication patterns, sometimes the anxiety between two people alone is too heavy. So they will triangulate a third,
Oh.
right? And so that triangle becomes then more stable. And so think about when you have an argument with your friend, the first thing you do is go to another friend and talk about, right? Like you go and you talk.
Are you frustrated? Like, oh my God.
what she did. Ouch.
Right, right, because it's the anxiety between the two of you is the tension is too much to bear. Where you
Right.
just holding it, so you go find a third and put that third in there, so now you can interact with the other. And so, go ahead. What are you gonna
But yeah,
say?
sorry. But sometimes when the third is added to it, doesn't it complicate the whole dynamic? So it pushes them further apart?
Okay, so here's the thing. So going back to the infidelity, right? Typically, okay, that third party, the mistress, the side chick, is the third, right? Because the two don't want to really deal with what's happening between the two of them,
Okay.
right? But oftentimes what people don't see is that the children could have been triangulated in for years. A parent could have been.
Yes.
A
That's-
job. You see?
Yeah, you could
Okay.
have substituted that third with something more in a positive.
Well, no, not even because it's not positive, right?
So
So instead of dealing with your spouse,
right, you project it to the
child, now
or-
they're in your relationship,
Right.
or you spend more time with them. All of your attention is on the child and not the partner, which further isolates them.
right.
And it's still it's still pushing them apart.
Right.
Wow.
And then so by the time, like, then the other partner says, well, oh, here's another thing, alliances. Like you form like everybody's against that parent.
Yes.
And that's not good. And that's not
I've
good.
seen that.
Yes,
I've
and that's
seen
not
that.
good at all.
I've seen
That's
it a
not
lot,
good.
especially with a lot of relationships with females. You know, and they get upset at the father, and they split.
Yes.
And he's not no good. He's this, that, and the
Yes.
third. And then like, even for example, like with 50 Cent, right? He had the relationship with the baby mother and his oldest son, right? And he put him in the house or whatever. I don't know the dynamics or what was going on, but she had another guy staying in the house. And so, you know, what he did, allegedly, he burnt that house down, right?
What?
But it caused a rift into their relationship. Now he doesn't have that bond with his oldest son, because before, when he first came out, you used to see him with his son taking pictures and doing everything. Same thing that he's doing with the youngest son right now. But now it's like the oldest son, he has so much hostility and hate, it just sounds like something that the mother has already put in his head about him. And it's like, I see this a lot, like even, you know, with family and friends, you see, like, if the mom is scorned, or, you know, they had a falling out with the father, they tend to make the child feel sorry for them. And then now it's like they building up all this hate and hostility towards their father. And it's like, that's not fair. I don't think it's fair at all. But yeah, I've seen it. When you said that, it's like, wow.
So then you have those alliances.
Wow.
So then when you see one partner say, step out, right? Right. And then it's like, oh, you know, not that it's right, it's not, right? But it's an example of triangulation. So they brought in that third party, but then there's no, you know, conversation around how this other third was triangulated. And so I think then, and so going back to your question about positive triangulations, then what we do in therapy is bring awareness to what role these, you know, not the thing, but what does it represent? What does this person represent? Right? What needs are they needing that, you know, you weren't getting, you know, and sometimes what I find, a lot of this stuff goes back to childhood, right? Like, you know, you have ways that you, things that were modeled for you. Right? Fidelity maybe wasn't modeled for you, or you have some type of unresolved, you know, issues going on that you bring into your marriage, your relationship. And so then if there's no kind of help with that, you just kind of do the best you can. And
I have a question. What like, just for like anybody out there who did have an issue with infidelity, but then what happened is a child got involved. The side person, whether it's a man or a woman, ended up having a child. So what would be your advice? Like, have you had any situations like that?
I mean, yeah, but what's your question?
Now, some people say, would you, because I say if that's the worst situation, would you advise them, should they stay, work it out, or go?
That's another thing. Like, people are the experts of their own life.
Okay.
Right? So any advice that I give would be coming from my value system.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Right.
And the things I value might not be what you value.
As the next person.
That's right. That's right. And so my job is just to kind of help you get in touch with what you really want.
Okay.
Right. And so that's in an individual setting or in a relational setting. Like, it's not what I want. And sometimes people they live lives in a way that I wouldn't necessarily, you know, live it. It wouldn't be healthy for me.
Right.
But if it's working for you, it's not causing problems for you. That's not why you're seeing me. If you like it, I love it.
I get it.
You see what I mean?
Because everyone deals with different situations. So the way you may deal with it, or the way I may deal with it, it's all about how you deal with it, and what you can accept and what
you can. Right. And so my job then is to try to, you know, help you figure what that is. What is your value system, and how can you kind of get past the obstacles that you face? So, like, if we're on a let's say soccer field,
okay,
right? You got the two nets, you got each team, right? And so what you want to do is bring the couple, right, together against a problem. So they're not against each other,
Okay.
right? You want to bring them on the same team, right? So let's just say if it's the child, the child came and we would name that thing. What is that thing? Because it's not the child, but what the thing represents. How can I bring the two of you together and create a plan on how to address that?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right? Instead of you being against each other because you're not getting anywhere. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how can, like, you was talking about the third person, the triangle. So what advice would you give someone who's, going through and doesn't want to, I guess, get another person involved? Like, what should they do? Do you just face on to your partner and like, hey, I'm feeling da-da-da-da-da. Like, what advice would you give? Because sometimes it's not what we say, it's how we say it to that person. So it's like, what do we do if, so we don't bring in an outside party, whether if it's infidelity or not, or whether we projecting our problems onto someone else. Like, for that individual, what advice would you give for them to do so they wouldn't have to seek someone else?
Well, the first thing, like when a couple comes to therapy, the therapist then becomes the third party.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And they serve as the third party in a healthy way. Like you mentioned, like what is a good triangulation?
An unbiased way as well. Too.
That's right. They're unbiased. And that's why typically as a therapist, you would not, let's just say if you were my client and you were coming to me for a period of time and you say, well, can you do marital counseling? I typically would not, because I've already aligned with you as your personal therapist, right?
See,
So I have
get
a
it.
relationship with you, and
get it.
and the person that sees you, the couple is the client. So you need someone that's unbiased and views both of you as the,
I get it.
And so in that situation, then you would become the third, and then you would help them to, strengthen that bond between them without the need for a third party. So like you insert yourself to train them, almost like training wheels, so that you can remove yourself,
Right.
and they can have a healthy communication pattern.
Okay.
Right. But okay, so here's another thing. Right. So if you're like by yourself and let's just say you don't want to come to therapy and things like that, I have found like ideas like around attachment.
Okay.
Right. Like some of us have like anxious attachment, right? Like where or insecure attachment. I know you've heard of avoidant people, right? I think that dating apps are like full of avoidance, right? The folks that pop in, ghost you, and right?
That is
Their window of tolerance to really socialize and be in connection. So like if this is a window, their tolerance is like the window was only open this much. For people with avoidant personalities.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Attachment, not a person, attachment styles, right? Whereas someone who's insecure, the window is all the way up.
Oh, wow.
Right? You're constantly trying to you're hyper vigilant about, are we in connection? Are we in connection? Are we talking enough? Are we texting enough?
Yeah.
Right? And then it's like, if we're not, they're very, sensitive to small changes within the communication, like, oh, you didn't call me,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yes.
This is funny because my daughter, she was telling me about one of her friends in high school. She had liked a boy, and oh God, please don't kill me. And the girl liked the boy. And they, these kids now, they do, what's that, Instagram.
Yeah, they do all that stuff.
So she was sending him messages after messages. And, you see seen, but sometimes he didn't apply immediately.
Right.
So she got upset.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, but and then she didn't want to talk to him no more because she felt like he was ghosting her. I was like, but that's not how you communicate with somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe he's doing his homework.
Yeah.
But
that's how this generation is now. It's like, oh my gosh. It's like,
if it's not immediate.
Yeah.
So why do you, You think it's because of the all of the internet and
social
the
media
social
stuff?
media? Why is that? Because it's like, oh, he ghosted me. I'm like, give him like, you just texted him 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's like after 3 hours, have a nice life. Okay?
Yes, that is so true.
I hope you and her are happy.
Yes, that is so true.
Yeah. But it's like it's that balance, right? Like you really attachment is. Here's the thing about attachment. We're wired for connection. We're wired for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it's like when you don't get it, when you think about trauma and things like that, right? You could experience lack of connection as traumatic.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah,
That
you
would have to
really
be
can.
Wow.
But like I said, some people's window of tolerance for communication is very low.
Okay.
So like avoidant attachment styles, sometimes they grew up in households where their needs were not readily met.
Right.
So they learn how to not depend on people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, being the.
You know what I mean? So you kind of train yourself to not need people, and so you're kind of on your island, and you only need a little bit of interaction. Whereas maybe someone else, it's different. You know what I mean? And so they really need a lot to really feel that level of connection. So going back to your question, it could just be them having just different needs.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean that she's anxious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, although she can go online. There are quizzes you can take to see. To see your attachment style.
Right.
But a secure person, which you're used to kind of getting your needs met, right? So here's the thing: if you think about a lighthouse, when you're growing up, your caretakers are the lighthouse.
Right.
And then so you feel comfortable in swimming out further and further away because you could come back to that lighthouse. And so for some people, that lighthouse has been inconsistent. And so they don't know if it's going to be there. And so they don't want to venture so far out.
Right.
And they're always constantly nervous about being left or abandoned. And so that is something that they have to work on to get a secure attachment style. Attachment style where they can go for hours and be like, oh, they're just doing their homework. But still, then there are games. People do play games.
Right.
Right. And so there's a very real occurrence I've seen it online, of people training people how to get folks attached to them.
Really? Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
Yeah, like people.
Are you serious?
This is
oh
crazy.
my gosh.
Yes, and so there's a dopamine cycle,
Right.
a reward cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like when they give you attention, right? That's like the carrot in front of the donkey, like yay, right?
Oh wow.
And then they pull it back.
Okay.
Because when they pull it back, your anxiety rises. It rises.
Oh my God.
Right. And then when you hear from them again, even though it took them hours,
Right.
Wow.
But still, it's like your brain was like ding. And so it's like a reward. So so it's like one of those things. I was thinking about this yesterday about being tickled. Right. And laughing hysterically when you're tickled.
Right.
Yeah. But do you really like it?
No.
No.
That's because I do be like, don't tickle me. Like,
Right. And it's so incongruent because it's like they're just, and you're like,
but you don't want to be
and you
tickled.
don't want to be, it doesn't feel good.
Exactly.
Right. But sometimes that's the way that, these things are. It's like, you're doing something and it's like you like it, but deep down inside, it's really causing you pain.
Right.
Wow.
And a lot of people who don't have this awareness of that difference, is like, I must like it because I'm excited when they call, when they text, but then they breadcrumb you. And then there's the pain. It's like, but this is causing me so much pain, yet why am I excited to hear from this person?
Is that similar to like people being like in domestic violence relationships?
That could be. And so here's the thing with domestic violence, then that goes into like trauma.
Right.
Right. I just read the other day, like there was a study about dogs and they had them like on this conveyor belt and had electric shocks. And so when they opened the door, those dogs that were in the control group that weren't shocked they ran right out, right? That's natural. They ran out. You open the door, they booking it.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones who had been shocked, they didn't.
Because of the shock, and they know they'll get pain if they leave.
Right.
Wow.
And so, like, when we think about, and that's Bessel Vanderkolk. He has a book called The Body Keeps Score about trauma, if anybody wants to read that.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's like the dogs who stayed in, you know, when you're in that kind of situation, you kind of have like this psychological process of you give up.
Right.
You can't
Wow.
experience yourself in any other way. This is what you know, is what you become comfortable with. And he even talked about in that how like pleasure, some things that are painful, we reinterpret as pleasure. All right. Like when you think about things like marathon runners,
Right.
that is very painful on your body.
Yes. Oh my.
But over time you start to like, oh, this
Build
this
endurance. for
yeah,
it.
endurance. And you're like, oh, this is great. This runner's high. But you train yourself. People who parachute, like that causes like a whole fight or flight. Like but then people get addicted to things like that.
Wow.
So I say that to say in cases of domestic violence, it could be a number of things. And sometimes we also go back to traumatic situations to try to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like if you grew up in trauma, if you grew up in it, you might come out of that and place yourself in another situation that resembles that. And it doesn't even, it's not just with trauma either. It's regular like relationships you get in with your partner. And you're like, wow, like I never resolved that from my mom or from my dad. Like I could never make this person happy growing up. Here I am in a marriage and I can never please you.
Wow.
So it's like a cycle.
It's a cycle. It's like
Wow.
unfinished business from your family of origin. We take that unfinished business and try to finish it in our relationships.
Wow.
You know? It's like some jewels right here.
Yeah, very knowledgeable jewels.
Yeah,
Wow.
we do. And so like one thing that I saw is like if you have like the busy mother.
Oh Lord, that's
I
I work like so
that's
many
all of us.
Right? Same, right? Like, and they say, especially like boys, they say, well, boys tend to date people like their mothers.
Not my son. Did I do something wrong?
Now that was
Oh, God, forgive me. It's going to be aired.
But you know, you could, not all, but you could come out of that. Like say you really wanted your mother's attention and you just couldn't get it, right? She's doing the best she can, right? A lot of us have to work, right? And then if you want to do it's just a lot. And so you come out of that situation and you might attract yourself to a wife who is like really smart like your mother, really hardworking like your mother, but you also don't feel seen. You don't feel, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I
like
definitely do.
that spouse is distracted. And now it's like, and it's bringing up in you the same hurt and pain that you experienced when you were growing up in your family of origin. And a lot of that is being displaced then on your wife, but she's not responsible for all of that. Some of that belongs to your family, right?
which you never addressed or dealt with.
Right. And how many families that have, like, seriously, like, if your mom has to work 2 and 3 jobs, who has time to go to therapy?
Right.
You
Nobody.
don't. You don't.
You really don't.
So you kind of grow up and it's subconscious. The kid doesn't even know, like, I have this thing. So now you're grown. I'm just using male and female.
Yeah,
gender.
which is
Right.
Yeah,
It could be
you
any
anybody.
gender.
Yeah, it could be any gender. Yes.
Any gender. And then now, like, here is a young man. And so here's the thing. There is this confusion. It's like, because on one end, you really look up to your mother. You really appreciate that you held us down. Right? You know that they did that. But you also have these negative feelings that are not safe to come to the surface.
Right.
Right? Like, I feel like she wasn't there. She didn't hear me. She
Suppressing
didn't.
it.
Right. So, and you suppress it.
Wow.
And you don't know that's what you're doing because you don't have that level of awareness. And so now you grow up and you kind of have this anger, this resentment you know, and it could be towards this mom in general, or it could be to women.
Oh,
you
gosh.
know,
I spoiled my son.
Yep,
A lot.
she spoils us.
Did I ruin him for the?
Her boy, her boy, ooh, her boy.
He was like the only child for 8 years, so the boy didn't have not one. The teachers was like, he got a new outfit every time I see him. He like had a new shoe, a new everything. So I spoiled him. Did I ruin him?
Why do you think you did?
Because
That's
he
what
is
he's gonna-
spoiled.
But that's what he's going to. So she's thinking that's what he's going to want to look for in a woman
That
to do
overly.
overly.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
What feedback is he getting though? Because like
He's a good guy though. My son has a
Says
really
the mom.
good
says the mom.
Well, no, you know what's so funny? He really is like he would be
He
like
is
a good
genuine-
catch for some. Well,
He reminds me of like his heart. It reminds me of me. It's like we're always giving. We're always wanting to please and make everybody happy. And I get upset is because we get taken advantage a lot. And people take that weakness, that
kindness
softness,
for
that
weakness.
kindness. They take it for weakness and they just use us. And, you know, and it's like, it's happened to me numerous of times, you know. I will give you, if I don't even have it, I'll try to get it for you. That's the type of person I am, you know what I'm saying? And he's the same way. And it's like, how do I help him and prevent him from being, you know, because I feel like he's me. I feel like that he's me. He has his dad's temperament, but he has my, I don't know. It's just
Like his spirit.
yeah.
I could kind of feel you on that because I was having a conversation with my cousin, and a lot of people observe that I do so much stuff for other people, like. I could like put their needs in front of mine, and they're like, when are you going to be worried about Lady M? When are you going to focus on you? Because you always put 10 million things on your plate. You do this, do that, do that, do this, do this, do this, do that, do that, do that. Because in my mind, like me being busy, I just like to help. And I'm like, but you're helping others, but you're not worrying about yourself or helping yourself.
Right.
Because that's exactly what I do. You call me
Yeah.
up, you need this, it doesn't matter.
So we
And
get
I have a
pleasure
daughter.
from it.
It's like, and I have a daughter, and she sees that. So she's like 7. So I don't want her to be I want her to be like nice and sweet, but I feel like I overly compensate others before myself.
Okay. So I'm going to try to address both, because the first thing I heard is you had concerns about if you overly giving to your son, was that going to ruin him?
Right.
So I would say, going back to before when I said, if you like it, I love it. If it's not causing any, so if you see that what you put into him that is hasn't been problematic, then there's no issue for you.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, you see what I'm saying? Because it's like, what's the movie? The Fockers, Meet the Fockers. Like,
Yes.
if you Fockerized your son,
That was
right? Like, it's fine. It's fine. Right. So if he turned out to be, like you said, like you, a giving person, right? Consider it. Okay. Now here's the thing. When I heard both of you speak about how you give, right? The first thing that came to my mind was this idea of boundaries. Like, I've seen so many times on social media where people will post things and be like, it's hard to have a good heart because, you know, it's not the heart that gets you into trouble. It's the heart without the boundaries.
Oh, okay.
So then we go back and think about what messages have we been taught, right? Like that says like this all giving. There's one theory in counseling, it's a person-centered theory. And he talks about like how when you're growing up, there are these conditions of worth. Like you learn about how much you're worth many times in your families of origin. Okay. So when you show up and you give, like you're the kid that, you know, your parents can depend on, or you give your last and you get the feedback from your family that says, oh, wow, like, thank you.
So true.
Right?
True.
Then as a kid, you get in your mind, oh, I'm worth something when I do this. Right. And so then that becomes ingrained in you. Like my worth is based on what I can give.
Oh, wow.
So you add that onto other things that you may be exposed to. And this could even be like in our religious practices, right? We, even in Christianity, like give, right? And so, but what we often forget and neglect is this very powerful concept, which I call, well, I don't call it, but it's there, self-compassion.
Okay.
Right? Like, number one, your worth is not based on what you can give.
Okay.
Not that. And you can give, but have boundaries. And the boundaries are what separates me from you. Right? How are you giving to yourself? How much time are you taking to look at your own suffering that you might be experiencing? You know, speaking kindly to yourself, you know, nurturing yourself. Like, do we take the time to?
I don't. I mean, I'm so focused.
I really don't.
Yeah, I really focus on everything and everyone else. I'm really bad at that. Like, I can honestly say.
And it's like, you know, my feelings get hurt.
Like me, I'm an emotional person.
When you give in all the time and you don't set boundaries, it's like in your time of need, you don't
get it.
You don't receive what you, and it hurts your feelings.
Yes.
And it's like, how can people do that?
Yes.
But now it's like, I never set boundaries from the beginning.
In the beginning.
So why?
Wow. Because it's like, you know, we all go through things in life, you know, and you think because you're always giving, and it's like, I mean, like with me, I don't expect nothing back.
Yeah.
I don't want nothing back. I don't, just me being able to help a person, that's satisfactory enough. Whether you pay me back or not.
Same way.
Y'all know who y'all are that owe me my money.
Same way. I don't be I'm the same way like you, Brie.
I'm not hounding you, you know, for the money, whatever. But it's like sometimes we put in our head, okay, you know, I've helped these people over a period of time, and now it's my time. I'm in need, and it's like, hello, hi, anybody there? You know, and it's like, wow. Yeah,
it's painful. It can be very painful because it can also, not for everyone, but for some, it can elicit like a self-talk. Like I always ask clients, what did you tell yourself about yourself when this happened? Or when that happened? So like if you needed someone and they didn't show up for you, what did you tell yourself about you? And sometimes we tell it, right? So sometimes we can say like, well, maybe I'm not worth it. Like maybe
we beat up on ourselves. We think we did something wrong.
Yeah, like they didn't show up for me in a way. Am I worthy to have somebody show up for me? Like, am I important enough? Like, I don't know. You ask you, so that it's important to be aware of your self-talk, number one, but also the idea of I'm asking people to do something for me that I haven't done for me.
Right.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, like I want you to look out for me. But I'm not doing that.
Wow, and I'm not looking for exactly.
Wow.
Right.
That is
exactly.
That is so true. Like we're not even looking out for ourselves. Wow.
Yeah, right. Like I don't slide myself for 20. But I want you to slide it to me.
That's true.
Or take me out to dinner, or you know what I'm saying? Really value me.
Love yourself.
Love on
first.
me. Right.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not going to, and that's why I think in relationships there's such I think the codependency piece could really be strong because it's like you found you a person and now you want them to do all of the things for you that you don't want to do for yourself.
And they always say self-love, but it's like...
And it's both, right? It's self-love and other-oriented love, right?
Right.
But it's like if that person is charged with all of your care, that means when they leave, that threat feels real.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then, like subconsciously, you will do anything to keep them. even be in a relationship where you can't even be your authentic self. You're not growing, because if that person leaves, then so does any hope, right? For you to be taken care of or loved or.
So what are some things that a person can do to start self-loving and taking care of yourself? Like, what are some things that they should start doing?
Yeah. Self-compassion. Mm-hmm. If you just Google self-compassion.
Okay.
Because that's one that you could do for free. Hey, that's free. Right? Like, I think there's 3 parts to it. One is kind of, it's about the self-talk, right? Like, how are you talking to yourself? Are you nurturing yourself? Even in the way, like if you mess up, like I know for me, for many years, like weight loss was huge, right? Like I carried a lot of weight, and it's when you do it over and you fail over and over and over again, it becomes like so demoralizing. Right. And so I remember just changing my internal script from, this is ridiculous. You can't depend on yourself. So, okay, sugar. Up right now. I got you. I got you.
Right.
You did. Oh, okay. Like, if you went walking and you probably said, because most people, when they're about to start losing weight, they'd be like, I'm going to be out there for 2 hours.
The whole workout gear.
Right. Got your new clothes. Yes. Got your new clothes.
New outfit.
Right. And then you go out there and then it get real. And then, and you may have only done 20 minutes and you come back. But that conversation that you have with yourself and you say, you did good today. You came out here and you did 20 minutes. I'm proud of you. And the biggest thing, like, keep believing in yourself. Like, I don't care how many times you fail at something, inside, you have to say to yourself, no, I believe in me. I believe it. Because when you don't, it's like everything else just kind of, wow. Like when you give up on yourself internally. So that's the number one. That's free. That's free. But then think about, and I'm starting to think about another concept of this concept of differentiation of this is huge. So sometimes in relationships, you are so fused together, you can't see what's you and what's the other person. You don't know.
So true.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that a place to start is exploring the borders of where you end and where the other person begins. So like in the human body, right, we have the heart, we have the lungs, we have the brain. How functional are the lungs if they're trying to be the heart?
It's not.
It's not.
It's not
functional at all.
At all.
Exactly. Right. So I think that's a place to start as well. Like, what do I like? What are my values? You know what I mean? Take time apart by yourself. Go somewhere, journal. I like to explore things of the senses. Like, what do I like to smell? Right? Like, I love the smell of coffee. Like, that's one of my things. I like the smell of rain.
Me too.
Right? Fresh cut grass, like things like that. Even my music selection. Like, you know what I mean?
What is your music selection as?
Oh, man. I love jazz. Like,
so.
Oh, man. Like, on a daily, I listen to like Bill Evans. He's a piano player. Chet Baker, Miles Davis, Coltrane.
Yep.
Louis is like Louis Armstrong, like all of that, right? So I will, sometimes I do listening practices by myself. So I'll just sit in my living room and put on the album. I just put the album on and just listen, just relax, but just knowing who you are. And what makes you happy. Like if we were in a, like a dating game or whatever, the little newlywed games, and you ask, and they ask questions. How much of this do you know about yourself?
Wow. That is so true.
Yeah. So that, like, the self-talk, is changes to more of a nurturing, I got you, we good. What do we want to do today? What are we going to do today? You know,
Mhm.
I literally, I have this in my head now, which is very different. Like, okay, we getting up. You know, we're gonna. What do you want to do today? What park you want to go to today? Where you want to walk? What you want to see? That.
I have to start doing that because I've noticed with myself, I get so stuck. So like I have back issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, sometimes I'll waddle in my pain, and then sometimes I try to fight through. But I've seen myself lately where I'm stuck. I could literally sit or lay in a well, not sit for long, but lay down or just be stuck in one area all day. And in my mind, it's like, get up, go do something. And then it's like, I'm so tired, though.
Yes.
It's like, how do I get out of that? Because it's like I'm stuck. Like
Yeah.
I know I need to get up. You know, speaking of with weight loss, I gained so much weight because I was like bedridden for a few months, and now it's like I'm trying to get up and move, but it's just like mentally I'm just still stuck. Like, what can I do to help myself to get out of that? Because it's like in my mind, yeah, we're gonna walk around this block, but my body and everything else, like, girl, turn the TV back on.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
That's real. And it's like with but you know, you have real back pain, right? That's
Right.
real.
Right.
Right? But it's like we generally like to be comfortable. We like to be comfortable. And I think the biggest thing that I've realized within, I don't know, the past few years is to the level of discomfort that I'm willing to experience produces the results. So if I want higher results, I have to be willing to be uncomfortable. Yeah.
Do you have any social media handles, any books out so you can let our guests know so they can go look?
No. I mean, I'm just on regular, you know, with family and stuff like that. I do a little TikTok. I mean, if folks want to follow me on TikTok, I'm Goddess Oogway.
Okay.
Oogway, like, what is the movie? Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, and that's
Right? Oogway, Goddess Oogway.
so. Do you have like if someone want to come to you, reach out to you for you to for family and marriage counseling?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that. So for me, I have a private practice where I see clients virtually from North Carolina.
Okay.
And so I have to, like, I'm a professor here, but I don't practice
Here.
counseling.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Because I have to get a New Jersey license. We
Oh,
just
that's
moved here
right.
last
Oh,
September.
so that's okay.
Right. So I got, that going on in North Carolina and accepting more insurances for folks there. And then I'll move on to New Jersey. But we're teaching so many classes.
So
it's a slow process. I'm just tired.
I know. I totally understand.
Right.
You know what? It was such a pleasure.
We
You were
definitely
very
need you to come back
insightful.
because we haven't
Yes.
even touched on half of the wonders that this woman
Yes, it's
do
amazing.
and like her experiences. Is it Reiki? Because
Reiki.
Reiki. I wanted to go through all of that. So
Oh,
we definitely
yeah.
Yeah, she definitely has to come back. You have to have
here.
you back.
Yeah.
Yes,
And we have to talk about the expressive
Arts,
yes.
through trauma.
Yep.
We haven't even touched the surface. This woman is knowledgeable. I've known her all my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Phenomenal person. So we definitely have to have you back.
Yes, you definitely have to come back so we can touch on everything else.
Hopefully she'll have her license. And
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
So I want to thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for
so
our
much.
listeners for another edition of the chat
The
room
chat room.
with Lady M.
Choclet'Ri. Check us out. I done did some work, y'all. Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Instagram.
Yes.
And we have a Facebook page now. I am now working on our TikTok page. And we have some new segments coming up for you guys in the future. One segment is Ask Choclet'Ri. So if you have any type of, questions or need advice, you can email us at the chat room LC,
Mhm.
right? At gmail.com. And then Lady Ree, I'm sorry.
Lady
Lady
Reed.
M. Lady M is coming with her new segment.
I'm gonna have, you know what? My segment is just gonna be anything. Like it's just gonna be off topic, anything, like anything you want to advise, just want to talk about anything. It doesn't have to be. And then I'm gonna have a segment also, with popular events like entertainment.
So we have a whole lot of changes coming to the chat room. Please continue to support us. Please continue to send in your suggestions. Please like, comment, share this episode and all our past episodes. We really appreciate your love and your support.
And
Once again, thank you, Dr. Tiffany. We
Yes.
really appreciate you. And she will be back.
Yes, she definitely will be back, so we can touch on that.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great day, guys.
Peace.